He's coming, but he's going to be late. There's Nancy. Good evening. It is now 6 o'clock. We'll call the Planning Commission meeting for Monday, May 20th to order. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Hawley.
Here.
Commissioner Gentes.
Here.
Commissioner Schaefer. Here. Commissioner Stoker. Here. Commissioner Chorin.
Here.
Commissioner Barnes.
Here.
Commissioner Urbani.
Here.
Mayor Worth. Mayor Worth, sorry. Mayor Nurbin.
Mayor Nurbin's here, and Alderman
Alderman
Strelchek
Strelchek.
is here as well.
Alderman Strelchek from the cheap seats.
A little throwback then. First up, we have approval of the minutes from April 20th.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments or questions, corrections? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the minutes are approved. First, we have two public hearing items. One, however, has been canceled. The Alpesh Patel petition for 10004 West Farmdale Estates has been canceled. That was publicly noticed, so it's still on the agenda, but it has been canceled and will probably pop up next month. So if you're here for that, you get the night off. The next one is Keller Incorporated for GH Partnership LLP. The applicant is seeking a conditional use grant and building and site plan amendment to allow for a veterinary clinic for the property located at 12800 Northport Washington Road. Is there a motion to go into public hearing?
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor of going into public hearing, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're now in public hearing. Is there anyone here this evening who wishes to speak about the proposed vet clinic at 12800 Northport Washington Road? Hearing and seeing none, is there a motion to exit public hearing? Oh. You'll be up next, as you can come up to the table for the applicant. Or are you the applicant or are you the seller? Okay. Would you like to say anything? Now's the time before we close public hearing. Well, come up to the, let's do this officially. Come up to the podium, state your name, address, and then so Robin can put it into the record.
Okay, hello, I'm Katrina G.E.E., representing 12,800 Northport, Washington, on behalf of the Seller GH Partnership, and yeah, we're just trying to close it with the vet group right now.
Okay. Anything you'd like to add?
Besides that, no.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Do we have a motion and a second to close public hearing? Okay, that motion's still on the floor. Anyone else wish to speak? Seeing no additional speakers, all in favor of closing public hearing, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're back. And I guess we'll get a brief presentation from staff.
Sure. So this is at
Got
the
this.
corner
Thank you,
of Port Washington and Highland. It's almost 11,000 square feet for the facility. And then there's going to be 32 staff in total, with the largest shift having 7 doctors, veterinary medicine, and 28 veterinary technicians. So operate as a 24-hour emergency facility as well. There are the proposed number of parking spots is 62, where they only need 49. So part of our recommendation is to decrease those by about 10 to 52 to just decrease the amount of overparking on the site. And then engineering staff came to us and said that access is going to have to be driven north. So the applicant provided us with, if you want to go down, there's 2 separate alternatives that the applicant provided us with. One of them keeps the building as is, fronting on Highland Road, and another kind of flips it 90 degrees so it fronts on Port Washington Road. Yeah, if you could zoom in on those a little bit. And the philosophy behind this is that the Uleo Creek design guidelines, which the zoning district is a part of, emphasizes fronting public streets and with primary entrances, and the 90-degree flipped alternative helps accomplish this, just through having it front on Port Washington Road and really prioritizing that corridor rather than Highland. So yeah, that presents the site with a couple different caveats. The parking lot gets kind of turned into an L shape, and the dumpster gets moved to the northeast corner, and it creates a little bit more of a tricky situation with open space. And there's a fenced yard requirement in the Uleo Creek zoning district for the site that stipulates that a vet clinic or animal hospital needs a fenced area where people taking their pets, dogs, cats, whoever, getting operations at this facility can take them for a walk, take them to go to the bathroom, whatever they need to do outside of the building. The third alternative, the one where it's flipped, fronting Port Washington Road, is the one that staff really is recommending approval of. It does, based on just measurements from our analysis, it's off on front setback and side setback from Highland and Port Washington Road by just a hair. So I think it might just be kind of a maybe 11th hour thing that we might just need them to bump up like 2 or so feet each way to meet that. So that shouldn't be too hard. And then, yeah, we wanted to commend them for really sticking with the architectural guidelines in the Uleo Creek design guidelines. Yeah, if you want to go to an elevation that's higher up. Oh, yeah. You can see it's very rural farmhouse style. They use a fair amount of different materials and kind of roof variations. And they kind of matched a little bit what Ascension Hospital looks like a little bit. And we think it really just complements the area, and it's going to be a very good looking building on that corner.
Thank you. I'll take some questions from commissioners now. I saw Commissioner Urbani's hand up first.
I have a question about the parking spaces. You said that you want them to decrease the parking spaces?
Yeah, to limit the amount of open space that's removed from the site with that many parking spaces. Reducing it by 10, they're still more than what they need by about 2 or 3.
It says in the packet that there's 7 doctors, 28 vet techs, and their letter says maximum of 25 clients, so that's 60 spaces. Not all at once.
But not all at once.
25. I mean, it didn't specify. The maximum number of, sorry, the maximum, anticipated maximum number of customers on site would be 25. It's hard to piece together, so that's why I'm...
Yeah, that could be, I mean, you guys could change that if you really want, but I mean, we're basing it off of the, what's in the zoning code for the parking requirements, and I mean, if we don't have to overpark a site, that might be a more attractive option, but if you feel that their assessment of 25 people on the site at one time is kind of trumps that.
I think I'm looking for clarification. If it's going to be, if they're anticipating up to 60 people.
Why don't we see if, is there someone from the applicant here? But please come up. Yeah, that's. Maybe provide some clarity on the parking estimates. Are those just high-end estimates, or are those actual projections, or?
Keller. I also have with me John Belts of WVRC. So the parking requirements are what
Yeah.
we need to operate.
Sir, is the green light on?
It is.
It is, okay. Just,
that
yeah, I
better?
gotta get really close, sorry.
So the parking requirements or the parking that we allotted on the site was designed to make the facility work. So the amount of vet techs, the changes in shifts, the amount of doctors, and the amount of patients is directly reflected in our design. So it's not like let's just take out 10 spaces because the code says this is what we need to operate the facility.
Well, I think the parking code usually sets the minimum parking required. I think you
Correct.
can exceed it.
We definitely can. It's just more of a matter of staff's recommendation on kind of utilization of open space and green space.
Well, I guess if they're exceeding the code, they can at their own cost. And we don't have to require them to build less, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I just think if the estimate is up
It's
max possible is
It's odd that
60.
someone comes in with more parking than we require, because we generally require a lot of parking.
I understand because it's emergency care, you're not gonna be able to really judge how many people are gonna come at any one time.
That's correct, and they also deal with a lot of clients with their patients waiting in their vehicles, so you don't know if you're gonna go there, you could be there for 3 hours. Well, it's tough to gauge, so these guys have been in this business, and I can let John speak a little bit more operationally. About the clinics, I think it would help clear up a few things that are being asked in the design, as well as parking on just the difference between this facility and just a regular veterinary care facility.
Hi, my name is Dr. John Belts. I'm a partner in the building project and also a partner in the practice. As Nathan said, this is a little bit different in that we are at a 24-hour emergency specialty clinic. So a few things that make us a little bit different in terms of how we operate. One, our clients are not a set group of clients that come repeatedly month after month or year after year. The majority of our clients come once, and that's about it, because it's emergency and or specialty. So such, one, from a parking standpoint and a building positioning, easy access, clear access, fast access is really key to our clients and making sure that they're well served. And so anything that would interfere with that or make it more difficult or more confusing for them to just get entrance to the building, we view that as a negative from serving our clients. I know that there's some talk about having some sort of front access. None of our clients are coming in via walking. Everybody's going to be coming in a rush, under duress, in a vehicle. So we want to make sure that they can get care and be seen as quickly and as efficiently as possible. In terms of the parking, right now we see about 1,300, we refer to them as visits, 1,300 visits per month. Now a visit could be one client, one car, one pet, or it could be one pet with multiple cars. The other part, as Nathan described, is that we're not scheduled appointment-based service. People come at all kinds of different odd hours. We have certain peak times, and on average we can predict what that is on average, but we certainly can have some times that exceed that, whether it's weekends or early evening hours. We have to account for staff. Hopefully our business will continue to grow, and so we'll be adding more services and more doctors, more staff, so that we want to make sure that we have adequate parking, because what will happen is the clients are going to come, the staff is going to come, and then pretty soon we're parking in all kinds of odd ways and unsafe ways. And so if we can plan for adequate parking for our peak times as well as future growth, that's what we're looking for. I guess as long as I have the mic, I'll keep going. I know there was some questions about the fenced area. Again, being an emergency specialty clinic, we don't have boarding or routine pets that are here. We do have to provide a safe area for pets to be walked outside, usually dogs. And in our experience, usually it's one dog at a time, again, because these are sick animals. You're not sure about contagious diseases. You're not sure about behavioral issues. On rare exceptions, you might have two pets being walked on a leash within this fenced area. So this is not a common use area where dogs are let loose or left out for an extended period of time. It really is a secure place for dogs to be walked for a brief period of time, urinate, defecate, cleaned up, and then returned back to the hospital, because these are sick animals that then would continue their care. Yeah. Any questions that I can answer about at least the operations or the business side of it?
I think there's a few other questions up here. We'll keep on going down the road here. Commissioner Chorn.
With excuse me, with the site plan that's up there, there is a more or less a ceremonial front entrance on Port, right? And then the other side of the building, the east side of the building, will be the primary entrance. I think that's the way I read it. Is that correct?
Correct.
That's my understanding. And in our view, that's confusing to clients. I can understand the architectural appeal, but it does a disservice to our clients to have it that way.
I suspect, I mean, you can handle that with signage, of course, but it is part of the requirements of the district, isn't it, Jack?
Yeah, I think the balance is we have to anticipate what is not only going there now, but what might be there in 20 years to make sure that infrastructure is in place. So we're not requiring it of the next person coming down the pike. That's why those standards are in place. So it's a consistent look and feel throughout the district, and those amenities like the sidewalks and the front access are there, should they be used at some point in the future. But I think that's why that's in the staff recommendations. Commissioner Barnes.
Yeah, thanks. Couple things. The first is with regards to the driveway and being pushed further north, and I realize it's a county matter, and I fully agree with all that. I'm wondering that if perhaps we may need to have the turn lanes extended, the markings, right on Port Road. So I just wanted to put word in on that.
It's a good time for Cole to come up,
accommodating
but
with the
that's not our road.
with the site. I understand, but in terms of making our own development here work, it's one thought there.
Yeah, we did just add the conditions for the potential acceleration, deceleration, bypass. County will review that with part of their access permit that they'll have to submit. So
Sure.
I can add a note for them
And
to
I
at least
think
look
that's the
into it.
main thing. So, and I'm just looking at the markings today, and with the main intersection, and it being getting to be a busier signalized intersection over time. The second thing that I just wanted to bring or ask about, I guess, is the drainage at the southeast corner area. When I was out there this afternoon, it was raining, and and there's just not surprisingly, it was plenty wet back there. So I'm just bringing it up as a sensitivity in the final site plan
I think
that I could see.
there are some mapped wetlands in that area as well, in that southeast corner, and their stormwater management plan is proposing a couple devices in that area too, at the low part of the site. So probably not super surprising that there was water after today.
I think anyone else? Commissioner Stolchak. I'll work my way left to right.
Yeah, hi. Thank you for submitting a plan for review tonight. This is I think this is a great use for this corner, and I appreciate your guys' thoughtful work on this. I do have a couple of things that I definitely want to address. One, we're tearing down a building and putting in a new facility, and we're asking for a variance right away of 2 feet. So I'm that alderman that would request that stays within the setback area as designed by zoning, shifting that 2 feet.
They're not asking for a variance. I think I asked the architects to give us these alternatives kind of a little bit more late. So having that building kind of maybe be within or close to setback might have just been a little bit of a rounding error, and it's in the condition of the report that any of the sites that are approved, that they'll meet district setback and offset regulation.
Okay, so the setback is being addressed. I just saw that was a call out on your sheet where it was less feet than what was the zoning stated. So I did want to make sure that we addressed it. Building is great so far. You know, my preference is I would prefer to see a little bit more overhang on that entrance to give that and your customers that statement feel of coming into a facility and having that be where they do enter and draw the eye to that space. But again, I'd refer to our architect for his feedback on that. It's just something that I'm seeing as a non-architect that I've seen in other places that might benefit the look of the facility and also the knowledge of where your customers would go.
You know, to that point, can you bring up that elevation of the perspective of that entrance? So how deep is that?
Just in the rendering, it looks like just kind of a big flat wall, and that roof overhang would offset that a little bit.
It's 8 feet.
The overhang's 8 feet? I'm talking the roof line. I'm talking the top roof, not just the entrance. Yeah, that overhang, I'd look to maybe have that be a little more, it's 1 foot. Yeah, on the gable. Again, I'm diverting to you. I'm seeing that as, it just looks like it's really flat. You know, the walls look really flat, and this is the first building people are gonna see as they come into our community off the highway at that entrance, and
Yeah, this would be the parking lot side.
Well, I think it'll look fine. I'm thinking about across the street, it's probably a very similar situation, an overhang, so I think what you've shown is good.
so I'll yield to our architect. I just wanted to bring that up for discussion. Thanks for your patience.
I think I saw Commissioner Schaefer with her hand up earlier.
Northeast, west, and south. Okay, Marty, when you said east before, I only had one question, and then I got confused. So just for Commissioner Schaefer's education, we're talking about the main entrance is facing the highway based on the way the building is going to be oriented. Say,
That would be if you chose site plan number 3, and I guess maybe I'll help because planning didn't quite explain it. So we made an original submittal that's addressed in the full packet. Given the late notice of wanting to reorientate the building at entrance versus the street and things like that, we didn't have time in a week's time to be able to re-render and do all the buildings, so any labels or things may be off compared to what, if you're looking at site plan 3, which is the staff advised option.
Commissioner Stoker.
I just have a quick question. You mentioned that a lot of times you'll have clients sitting in cars with their pets. Again, I'm not familiar with your operation at all. Do you find that they're getting out and they need a place to walk their pets while they're waiting, or they're sitting in their cars?
At times, COVID changed a lot of things for everybody in that historically in the past, people would come in, bring their pet, wait in the waiting room. With COVID, we were, maintained operations through that whole season. And what we found is that clients actually seem to prefer waiting in their car with their pet until they can be seen or pending diagnostics or whatever else needed to be. We do need to allow for some casual, clients walking their pets while they're waiting or prior to a visit or after a visit. I don't know offhand if that's addressed on the plan, a dog walk area. Yeah. Correct.
Is that what's denoted on the southeast corner of the building? It's kind of written in pen on option 3, page 29.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That southeast corner of the building. It's not a fenced area per se, because if you're out in the driveway area, they're not going to enter a separate fenced area. Fenced area is for the patients who are in the clinic, and then they can walk themselves around the perimeter of the site. If there's sidewalk access, they can also use that green space in the southeast corner as well.
Any other questions from the commissioners? Commissioner Barnes?
So just on that, just to clarify, what is the southeast area of the site plan that's shown as green space? So is that kind of intended as the walk area? That's what I was asking, might be for drainage and so forth? Or do you have plans for subsequent expansion?
The kind of that east portion that's all green, where the site plan makes a L, that area is for stormwater management, and there's also some existing wetlands that were in that area.
All right, any other questions or potentially a motion?
I'd move approval per staff conditions.
Second.
Motion and a second. There was,
Which version do you want me to call out?
I think it's option 3, but there was some discussion earlier about parking. Is there an
I'm
amendment?
comfortable with the parking, but if the commission wants me to,
Parking as proposed by the applicant or as,
as proposed by the applicant,
okay.
Condition 7 would be the one you'd have to get rid of.
So, yeah, strike condition 7.
strike condition 7.
Okay. Is that acceptable to the seconder? Okay. We have a motion and second for option 3, except for condition 7. Any other questions or comments?
Do you have some questions from the applicant? Because of
Sure.
we didn't have a lot of time to look at these staff comments. Item number 8, the inclusion of a cross-access easement for the driveway. So we're okay moving the driveway north, but having a cross-access easement at this time, given the large nature of the parcel to the north and the existing golf course use, help me understand why that would be needed at this time.
So that's included in the actually underlying zoning code for the Leo Creek area. And while it is a golf course use right now, that doesn't mean it's going to be in 10, 15, 20 years. So that inclusion of that easement is just to provide better access to any future lots or even the full lot up there.
Yeah, from our end, I mean, one of the reasons that they specifically selected this site, along with other ones, is to get away from group parking and large-scale amounts of people. I mean, with it being such a large site, if a cross-access easement is granted, let's say a large residential development or something comes in, that would be more detrimental to them. So I think at the time, they're always open to ask for it when the development's known, but to give one carte blanche now without having any defined, I mean, if it was a smaller parcel, but it's a massive parcel, so redevelopment of it and already having a pre-granted cross-access easement, doesn't make us very comfortable.
I think the other issue involved was that we wanted to see eventually a lineup with the clinic across the street's parking area. So if you can see on the map, you can barely see it just on the very top. This is their driveway location. So it would make sense, obviously, if this parcel was bigger, that these would line up across the street from one another. So the access easement, in addition to the code requirement, is that so eventually, if something does happen, and it could happen in 5 years, it could happen in 30 years, that eventually that driveway access would line up with this one, and then this one would ultimately go away.
So Jack, are you communicating that, you know, if they would ever expand that road, that if they did boulevard that would be the logical access point to both parcels, giving them right and left turn in and out of their parcel?
Well, again, it's county road, so we don't have jurisdiction over that, but I think that's what the plan would be.
Yeah.
Could you remind me what the land to the north is zoned currently? Is it, well, it's on here, isn't it? Is it?
It's Leo Creek Senior Housing, which allows for other types of housing. And we did the same thing, if I don't know if anywhere around the commission at the time, with the Golden Oak Dental on Port Washington Road. They had their own access point until the Kohler Credit Union went in, and they had to abandon it at that point and use the cross-access easement because it was the existing was not in a good location, but they had no other access opportunities at that time. So this is something we try to just again foresee in the future, that to prevent any future issues with access and parking and just traffic circulation. So this is why we're requesting it now. In 20 years they could come forward and you know, the commission may not feel it's necessary to have that easement or that cross access there, but if we don't have the easement, then we're really kind of hamstrung at this point. So this is just getting the access easement, and you know, we can deal with that in the future. But if we don't get any easement now, It just eliminates any possibility of doing anything in the future.
Commissioner Strelchak.
Yeah, my inclination is to leave that easement in, as, you're developing in an area that's zoned a certain way, that's part of the zoning. It's nothing unique, and, it's designed to have all the parcels work together as this, does grow and expand. There is, you're one of the first, developments in the expansion. Ideally, this is, something that we'd keep in, so, I'm not inclined to remove that in my motion.
Yeah, the only bad part for our client is they can't decide knowing what happens in the future. I mean, they'd be willing to grant a cross-access easement at a later date, but I mean, now they're just carte blanche giving up any ability to not have a cross-access easement.
I think we're approving where we're at right now, and then if something would change, 10, 15, 20 years down the road where it would be required, it just would be a part of the easement, and that going into it. So I think we're being upfront and direct with it, and I don't know that it's an unreasonable request based on the zoning that you applied within.
Any other comments or feedback from the commission? We have a motion and a second. If we're done with comments, or are there any other comments or questions from the applicant?
The only comment would be is getting a better understanding of what's going to be desired for if you're approving the version 3 site plan with the not required parking reduction. Is the main entrance that faces east where all of the clients are going to be coming in, what is desired of that entrance along the west other than just being ceremonious? Because that's something that I don't know that we can design around inside of the clinic, is to have entrances on both the east and the west. So if it's going to be required, that's a staff approval of our final plan, has a main entrance facing Port Washington Road. Again, that would be ceremonious. I don't know that that works for our plan operationally.
In the Uleo Creek Design Guidelines, they list a few options for principal entrances. So they should include either a covered plaza / porch, arbors or pergolas, or seat walls with landscaped courtyards. So these are meant to just anchor everything in kind of the fronting the primary road and give a primary entrance to the building from that perspective.
Yeah, you were the motioner, so yeah.
Yeah. Would you be comfortable working with staff on that, and then if you don't agree, just come back next month, but get the bulk of the approval ideally done tonight?
Sure.
Yeah, so we'd work with the architect and staff. And then if you can't come to an agreement, just bring it back next month, but the bulk of the approval would be here, ideally.
So do we need to amend the motion to work out some of the finer points on the site layout at staff level?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so motion for option 3 without condition 7 and direction for staff to handle some of the minor points like the sidewalk and the entrance from the Port Washington roadside. And the setbacks, there's a couple feet to shift things around. Is that okay with the seconder? Okay. All right, so we still have a motion and a second. Going once, going twice, on any other comments or questions? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hawley.
Aye.
Commissioner Gentes. Commissioner Schaefer.
Aye.
Commissioner Stoker. Commissioner Barnes.
Aye.
Commissioner Chorin.
Aye.
Alderman Strelchak.
All right.
Mayor Nurbin.
Aye. Thank you. Next, we have 2 consent items, but I'm going to break them up because we have a reason to break them up. The first is Dan Kahn, applicant seeking a minor request for a specimen tree removal at 3600 West Candlewick Court. Is there a motion
Move
to
approval.
approve?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Oh, Commissioner Schaefer.
Is the applicant here? Just would have been, I appreciate your pictures, but it really didn't tell your story at all. So I'm going to vote to approve, even though I hate specimen tree removals, but I appreciate the city forester's explanation, but those pictures were challenging for me to get your story from. So, but I'm still approving.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? And that item is approved. The next item is Newman Development for Highland Road LLC. The applicant is seeking a concept plan and preliminary plat approval for a 37-lot subdivision for the property located at 1310 West Highland Road, Highland Meadows subdivision. And Commissioner Stoker is going to recuse himself on this item. Is there a motion or a second or any questions for staff? We've seen this one before. It was approved a year and 4 months ago in its original form, but there's been some minor changes to the preliminary plat and the layout to accommodate more side access driveways, which were required. And it was previously rezoned. When was it rezoned? 3-4 years ago?
Yeah, 3 years ago at least.
3 years ago, after about 2 years of discussion for the Uleo Creek area rezoning.
Did you want to just see if I don't know if there's anybody here to speak on this item, but did you want to check just
Yeah,
before
if there's anyone here tonight, no one's registered, so if there's anyone here tonight to speak on this item, now would be your chance. Seeing none, are there any questions from the commissioners or a motion? Commissioner Chorn.
At my recollection, one of the big sticking points from the past was the sanitary line or the dealing with sanitary situation. And my understanding is that they are required and will connect to the sanitary line, right?
Correct. They do have to provide some interim inline storage just to deal with the issues with the lift station, but they are required to connect to the sanitary system.
And we're addressing the issue with the lift station. Just won't be done for a couple of years.
Right away.
Commissioner Barnes, did you have a question?
Yeah, just, pardon me, I'm sorry, we had talked about this earlier, but is there any plan at this point for lighting of the streets, or at least at the at the intersections along Highland, along
So
Port
I know a
Washington
lot
Road?
of us have received complaints about those existing fixtures, and there is a requirement they have to match those fixtures, but I have been working with a lighting engineer that's part of the company that built the light or manufactured the lights. They do have a new version out, which will alleviate, I think, a lot of the issues. It's a full cutoff fixture. It still looks the same pretty much, but the optics are different. So we're working on them and trying to find maybe some funds to replace the existing ones, but the new ones, we would require them to meet this new standard, so you wouldn't have that same glare issues you have right now. And that's only going to go on Mequon Road, or on Port Washington Road. That won't go down Highland Road any further. It's just to light the path that goes down Port Washington Road.
I guess, why not on
Well, I mean, eventually you're going to have to stop with lighting somewhere along that stretch, and we felt the break between the commercial and residential would make the most sense, because there's not even a path or anything else going to the west. There's really not a plan for a path going west, but as you go north on Port Washington Road, the plan is to take that path all the way up to Pioneer with the lights. So we had to make a break somewhere. We thought the break between the commercial and the residential made the most sense.
Okay, I understand that, and I'm thinking more just in the context of for traffic, for vehicle turning movements.
Well, there's a lit. There's always a requirement to have a lit.
My answer's answered. Thank you.
Okay.
Or my
I'd
Thank
move
you.
approval.
Oh, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I had one quick ad.
Okay, Cole's got an
sorry
ad.
to jump in. Just in discussing with the developer, there was some talk about phasing. They wanted to potentially work through having it phased, and that would require another DA to accommodate that. We have a DA for the current development for the whole thing, but it would need to come back for if they did plan on phasing it. So if we could add some language like, or as amended with DA approval to condition 13, if that's okay with the commission. Just because the condition is written as a condition of this preliminary plat.
What page is that on? I'm trying to find it
Sorry,
quickly
that
here,
is,
but
62.
okay. There we go.
And that's condition 13.
So we wouldn't connect the road?
Maybe now that we're all
Say it
looking
again.
at it, could you say what you wanted to say again? Sorry.
Just in addition to the end of that condition, just something like or as amended with DA approval. As in a separate DA approval.
What do you need
Okay,
the
well,
flexibility for?
I think we approved it in this form once already. I think all Cole's saying is if they want to phase it,
I think
adding
what-
some clarifying language saying we'd have to come back and get a formal DA amendment.
I think what he's saying is that if the applicant would like to do a phasing plan where it's not connected, they have the opportunity to come back and do that once it's amended. So it's basically saying that that condition could be superseded at a future date with an amended DA if the commission.
So if it's not amended, if we don't have a new DA, they have to build it all the way through. But if they want to phase it, then they have to come back and ask about an amendment to the DA,
Correct.
Right.
And they may ask to modify that condition.
which I think it's probably okay as is. It's just clarifying it because
Yeah.
if they wanted, it's just clarifying that they would have to come back.
I mean, a DA superseding.
It's the
it
exact
would-
same thing it says now. It's just more
Yeah.
clear.
Right.
Go ahead.
I guess my question is, what's the ask for the flexibility? Why do we need the flexibility in here? You know, I'd prefer to see the road built once, you know, Highland and Port Washington Road be inconvenienced once and have this in. So, you know, I'm already looking at something that's allowing these buildings to be a little closer together to get the garages to lined up, which I don't prefer. I don't want to see any additional density. I don't want to see anything even closer in an additional phase. I'm at my limit of what I'm saying yes to right now, and just kind of a little over the edge, to be honest. I support this development. I support residential being there. I support the developer. I know they're going to do a quality job, but you know, what is the need for flexibility? That's my direct ask, and I don't see a need to remove that personally. Until that's explained to me.
And
I
and
can
the
explain it,
applicant-
but I think would become better from the applicant.
Yeah.
Brian Lindgren, Newman Developments. It's a fair question, and I think there's a couple answers to that question and why we would want to phase this. Again, just to reiterate, we're not proposing any changes to the 37 lots, sizes of the lots, anything like that, entrance locations. As we, over the course of the last year, dig into sewer concerns, moving of dirt, so on and so forth, it's that eastern part of the property that actually needs some fill dirt brought in. By phasing it, it allows us to start some houses, bring those basements, flip them over to the other side and use that as fill, bring and locate other sources of good clean fill so we can build a structural road and good home pads. Another reason is that it obviously extends or spreads out the expenditures as well for a developer, so that we're not bringing that much on at one time. Anything else, Dean?
So minimizing the amount of off-site
And
fill brought in,
Felt like that could be
and then
addressed-
cash flow.
Yeah, addressed through a developer's agreement. Again, no significant changes to the unit count or lot sizes or anything like that. Just spreading out expenditures and making it a little bit more a buildable project and addressing it through a developer, any amendment to a developer's agreement.
So the fill needs that you mentioned is pretty much what we're seeing today out there with
Yeah.
some area close to Port Road that
Yep.
looks pretty low. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so there's a request from staff to add clarifying language, I guess. It'll just be more clear. That's the process would be the same either way.
Can you state that again so I can accept that?
Sure. Just adding to 13, condition 13, or as amended with DA approval.
I'll accept that.
I forget, who was our seconder? Okay, is that amendment acceptable to the seconder? Okay, we're square now. Any other comments or questions from the commission? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Aye. Commissioner Gentes,
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer,
Aye.
Commissioner Bonney,
Aye.
Commissioner Barnes,
Aye.
Commissioner Chorin,
Aye.
Alderman Strelchak,
Aye.
Mayor Nurbin.
Aye.
Vote passes.
Looking forward to seeing some action out there. Thank you. And next we have on to regular business. First up we have Ralph and Judith Morello. The applicant is seeking land division consultation for the properties located at 10050 North Rangeline Road and the parcel immediately to the south at 2516 Rangeline Terrace. We've got a few people who have registered to speak. I'll read them off in the order they happen to be in my pile up here. First up, we have Laura Reese, opposes, did not check her box. Do you wish to speak, Laura? Okay. And that's 2425 West Rangeline Terrace. Next is Lynn Ricks. If you want to speak, let's go up. Please come up to the podium. Please come to the podium. Otherwise, no one can hear you on the recording, and the public loses the input.
I'm Lynn Ricks, and I'm the owner of the Rangeline Terrace property. And I was not informed of this meeting in advance. I only got a card because I moved to Whitman Place, and so I got it through there. But I'm wondering why I was not informed of this meeting.
The one that's mentioned.
I'm not for or against what Ralph Morello wants to do, but I'm concerned that the city didn't tell me about it.
Well, you own the property, but your address on file is not the address on Rangeline. You moved to Whitman Place. I don't know. I'd have to let staff work out why.
So,
We send notices to the properties that are in the area, but if the owner's
but
not
you
in the
don't
area,
send notice to the owner of the property you're talking about?
if the address isn't up to date in
No.
the city's system, then we have no way of finding you. But
Okay.
it's happened before, believe it or not.
Okay.
So apologize for that. Staff will take a note to figure out what went wrong. Craig Swan opposes, wishes to speak from 2413 West Rangeline Terrace.
I'm Craig Swan, as you said, from 2413 Rangeline Terrace. I'm speaking, I guess, on behalf of my street, who's in the back row back there. And to start off with, I don't know if this is appropriate or not, but my one neighbor wrote a letter and he submitted it electronically late. Josh Smith, did you get that? Okay. He wanted to make sure you received it or I had a copy. Thank you. Okay. We also were a little alarmed. Oh, you can't hear. Okay.
Yeah, you have to get
better?
really, really close to it.
I'm sorry. Okay. I can get there. We also were a little alarmed that we got such short notice about this. We all received yellow cards maybe 6 days ago or so. We all are opposed to option B. We feel that, I guess to start with, we have a Rangeline East covenant, and we feel that this proposal is in direct conflict with some covenants that are established. And I guess some specifics would be that no lot shall be used except for single-family residential purposes. I know that when someone owns a lot, Lynn's lot is not required to build on it, but when you do an improvement on a lot, I think you're using it. And we have a covenant that states that any lot should be used only for a single family use residence. Also, there's a question of where this street or whatever is going to be located. A part of our covenant is that a building should be no less than 100 feet from a road's right-of-way. And this, to accommodate wetland issues, as I understand it, would be located less than 100 feet from a property. That would allow delivery vehicles, other traffic, and it would decrease this property's value. I mean, right by like 200 feet of adjoining property. Also, according to someone we spoke with the wetlands people, there are a lot of wetland soils and wetland areas, and they're unclear as to where we could construct anything or where it would not be on a wetland indicator soil. Last, a big concern we have is just the integrity of our neighborhood. I've lived on the street for 18 years. Others have lived there longer. We love our neighborhood. A lot of us use it. We love the integrity, the beauty, the nature, and we feel like option B would decrease the integrity of our community. Did I skip anything? Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Jan Spiro, opposes, did not check the box whether she wished to speak or not. 2507 West Rangeline Terrace. Would you like to speak, ma'am? Well, please come up to the mic. I can't hear you. And
Hey,
no, either you have to, yeah, sorry, have to come up and speak or
just for protocol
Yep.
standpoint, if the mayor asks if you want to speak on anything, even if it's brief, just please come up to the podium and speak.
oh,
The podium?
to the podium. Yep.
Yep, thank you.
Well, I don't have much to say, but I don't understand how somebody can come in and just change the whole nature of our street. We're a cul-de-sac, and if you put a road in there, we're not gonna be a cul-de-sac anymore. We're gonna have traffic coming through there, and, I guess I just don't understand, and I would also voice my displeasure that we only got this notice like 6 days ago. So it's kind of hard to,
Well, I can explain the process. This item gets brought before staff. Anyone can request anything they want. It doesn't mean they're going to get it. They get on a planning commission agenda, and then there's so many days we're required to publicly notice it in the paper. And right after that's done, we put them in the mail, and then it's anyone's guess how long it takes the post office to deliver it to you. My guess is it took them 4 days to deliver it to you because we generally put it in the news graphic and mail those cards the same day. We've been having other things take an abnormally long time through the mail, so. But you would have never gotten it any sooner than maybe 8 days ago, just by the way the process works.
well, it seems if you're gonna suggest such a major change, you've got, I don't know how you go about it, but it seems to me that there needs to be a better way.
This is just a consultation hearing. There's no final decision being made tonight, only a indication of what we might vote for in the future. So, yeah, no final action tonight, but
Okay.
thank you. Next, we have Mary Fran Cahill, opposes, didn't check whether they wish to speak or not. Would you like to speak, ma'am? If so, please come up to the podium. 2405 West Lane, Rangeline Terrace. (2504) West Rangeline Terrace.
I think that everything that could be said, or everything is pretty well covered in the letter and the materials that we submitted to you. I'm concerned that this street is going to be probably 40 feet from my bedroom. I don't think that that's a good place to put a street. I am a terrible public speaker, but I am just very concerned with all the rest of us that people can come in and completely change our neighborhood. It's just, I'm very upset. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Michael Reese opposes, did not indicate if he wishes to speak. If you do, please come up to the podium. 2524 Rangeline Terrace.
And Greg really outlined it. There's option A and option B is our understanding of what the proposal was. And in the Mequon Code of Ordinance, Chapter 58, Article 1, defines a street as a public or private right-of-way, usually affording primary access to abutting property. And as the ordinance, the declaration of our covenant declares, as Craig stated, it is really the 2 acres for a home, attached garage, I believe 100 feet to that home. So I think there's probably other options, but we oppose option A and B as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Robert Medrich, opposes, didn't indicate if he wishes to speak or not, but if you do, please come up to the podium. 2519 West Rangeline Terrace.
Hi, Robert Madridge, 2519 West Rangeline Terrace. This option is basically putting a burden on our homeowners who weren't aware of this when we initially purchased our properties. The original plan does not state that a road is going to go on 2516. So I'm opposed to that. In addition, as Mike Reese and Craig Swain spoke, the 2516 basically has a diagonal wetlands that goes through it, which actually makes it impossible to put the road in without upsetting that. And as far as option A, I don't know why the city is opposed to widening that driveway, since there's a 30-foot right-of-way there now. And although the road is only 14 feet, and I believe the city spec says it has to be 18, and a road could be put in, not a road, but widening that road from Rangeline back the 280 feet before the road swings north. And if that option was taken, those 2 lots could be developed. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have John Bonnell, opposes, does not wish to speak. 10056 North Rangeline Road. Susan Burtz opposes, pardon? Rutz, okay, sorry. Opposes, wishes to speak. 10054 North Rangeline Road.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Susie Bratz. I am a neighbor of the Morellos on the shared private drive and have been asked to represent the other 2 neighbors as well, Bevan and John Bonnell, Pippa Mackett, and Gary Quirk. I'd like to start by saying I've lived in Mequon my entire life. I grew up here. My parents were here. They've been here since the 60s. For as long as I can remember, being a little girl, I literally dreamed about owning a home on Rangeline. It's a special place. One of the things we love most about this area of Mequon is the beauty of the green spaces that still exist. Unfortunately, there aren't many places like this left. Every day, we are truly grateful for the nature, tranquility, and privacy this space still provides. We do not want this to change. We have concerns about the proposed development as summarized in our submitted letter and accompanying photos. I will highlight just a few. The existing drive is clearly not able to accommodate more homes, as it seems you have also concluded, being 14 feet wide and limited to 4 homes on a private drive. We run into each other all the time. It happened today. Very often, having to back out, in some cases, drive on lawns to get around. The 3 of the 4 property owners currently sharing the private drive would oppose converting the private drive into a private roadway with 18-foot pavement width and a cul-de-sac. Our existing parcels would be significantly impacted by this, and the engineering report states this may not be legally practical. In the submitted shared driveway proposal up on the screen by Sigma, it shows the future lots with access from Rangeline Terrace in red, seemingly the preferred access route by the city. That drive, shown as option B, would give access to future lot 3 and 4, but not to future lot 2. That drive, option B, would need to be modified to accommodate future lot 2. In option A on this same rendering, the access to future lot 2 is shown incorrectly in blue, as though it's already existing. It is not. There is no access to this lot. Proposed future lot 2 does not have access and would violate the 4 homes on a private drive rule. Additionally, future lot 4 looks like it would cross our driveway. Not sure that this is logical or feasible. We do also have very significant concern about the flooding and drainage. All of our properties experience flooding currently, as the submitted photos documented, and the Morello's front yard is very often submerged after a rain. The entire area for the proposed development is typically flooded and wet. Where would that water go? Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you. Last, we have Pippa Mackett opposes, may wish to speak. I'm not sure. She didn't check the box. 10052 North Rangeline Road. Would you like to speak, Pippa? Okay. All right. Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak that didn't fill out a comment card? Okay, so no more public input. My staff go over the proposed options and how we got here, and make clear what decision we need to, or indication we need to give you tonight.
Sure. So with this being a consultation, like you said, there's not going to be any final action, but yeah, suggestions and recommendations from the Planning Commission are welcome for the applicant. Regarding the notification of the owner, staff was under the impression that there was a letter of offer of sale from the applicant to the owner of the parcel, so notification was kind of the responsibility of the applicant, but we could check to make sure that the signature from the property owner is on the application for the item. Zoning wise, the proposed lots are compliant with the zoning for the property. However, the proposed lot 4, which is the westernmost one, that kind of skinny one, on the left side, it is 2 feet too narrow for the average lot width. So the applicant will have to figure out how to get those 2 feet from somewhere else and average it out. Other than that, this is mostly an engineering issue, so I'll turn it over to Cole.
Yeah, I'll quickly walk through the access and address some of the other comments that were made. So currently, there's 5 lots accessed by that private driveway off a range line. There are 4 homes accessed off of the driveway. However, that 5th southeast.
Ma'am, don't interrupt.
They do
Please.
have legal access to the driveway, so we are considering it served by the driveway, essentially. However, we, as the report states, the existing driveway is too narrow. It doesn't meet the required widths. The applicant did request a waiver to both sections of the specs that both dictate the required width for shared driveways, and then the basically the one that indicates that would have to be private roadway standards, which do require a cul-de-sac. So the 2 options that were presented, the one off Rangeline Terrace and the one through the existing driveway, are the 2 options we evaluated. We did suggest or recommend option B because it does meet, technically does meet our specs. No issues with providing additional access to that existing driveway, which is already non-compliant with our specs. However, as others stated, there are some wetland issues on that other rangeline terrace property, and it would add a connection to an established subdivision. And then regarding the stormwater, conditions added are same as others. We're going to review all the grading plans with building permits that do come through. That's a standard in our city process, verifying that they're keeping the natural drainage pattern and not impacting anything upstream. So the decision with the access is regarding the waiver to those spec sections, and I should point out which ones those were. That'd be condition 8 on page 82, basically saying applicant needs to either serve the created lots through the separate access point, as in option B, or the planning commission needs to grant a waiver to those sections of the specs. I would also want clarification on whether the planning commission wants that additional width added to the existing driveway. Should a waiver be granted to the, let's say if we go with option A for the access point. And I can answer any questions because I know that's a lot of lingo.
Questions or comments from the commission? Commissioner Chorn.
I have to confess, the drawing is totally confusing. The lots aren't labeled. The roadway in the option B comes through a parcel that nobody knows who owns that. I mean, if somebody could walk me through this roadway, how it's presently used, and the different lots, I'd appreciate it.
I have this is the GIS up on the screen just for some clarity about existing conditions. So right now, you can I was told not to use my laser pointer because you can't see it on TV, so I'm just using a bigger arrow for you. So right now you have a private driveway coming in here. It's not serving either of the two houses on either end. It's basically just serving 1, 2, 3, 4 existing homes and 1 vacant lot. So there's 5 total access users to that private driveway, okay? So the request of option A would be to split this land up so you'd get 2 more units out of it, but the request would be not to increase the width of that driveway. Option B would be to come with 2 of the lots coming through here, through this existing lot, which is vacant, and that get access to rangeline terrace. That would be a private driveway, not a private road. And again, as Evan kind of alluded to, typically, which we get an offer to purchase on a lot or some sort of written consent from the owner that they're willing to do that. So we would have to verify that we did get that. We typically do that ahead of time. So I apologize if we didn't do that. But so those are basically you have 3 options here. And again, this is a consultation. So we're just looking for feedback. One option would be to go with option A without any waivers, which was what was kind of approved in 2018. Option B would be to allow waivers to that existing driveway, and option C would be to allow the access off of rangeline terrace. Now, again, they have rights, so they have rights to develop this parcel. It's not a matter, if they meet the zoning and they have access, they have the right to develop it. So we can't just say, no, we don't want it developed whatsoever, even though sometimes I think some commissioners would probably feel that would be the best option. They still have rights. So we have to decide, and he's looking for feedback on what direction the commission's going, so that when he does get a response, then he can go back and draft his CSM to match that conditions. So basically, he's looking for feedback on the 3 different options going forward.
Commissioner Gentges.
Jack, would you confirm for option, I think you called it option C, I'm looking at it as option B.
Yes.
The private drive in connection to the West Rangeline Terrace, you have received evidence of consent from the owner of the affected lot that they would consent?
we do get that. I was under the impression that the owner of the property was willing to sell the lot to Mr. Morello, and that's what we typically verify that either through a signature or through a offer to purchase agreement. So if we didn't do that, then we drop the ball a little bit and we'll verify that, but that's how typical process works.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions? Commissioner Strelchak.
So the road or the driveway, as it's shown now, can only service, per our code, 4 homes, but it looks like it's allowable for 5 total based on that additional unbuilt lot being there, correct?
Yeah, we created a standard. We didn't have a standard for years, and it was all kind of as we went. So we created a standard, which there's a lot of existing situations that don't meet it. I mean, if you recall the Hannah Boyd CSM for, I think, last year, year before that, she was splitting it in 2 with the shared driveway, and the existing driveway width wasn't wide enough, and we granted a waiver in that case. So there's a number of existing driveways out there that won't meet it. So this one does have the ability to serve it off 5 currently, which would exceed that number, and it does not meet the requirement. But they have legal access to that because it was previously approved as a CSM. So now he's asking for 2 more, and that's what triggers this ability to ask for that road widening. Now, we can grant that, but that's where he was looking for getting separate access from Rangeline Terrace. And there's a distinction between a driveway and a road. And this would be a driveway. It wouldn't be a road. It wouldn't be a private road. It wouldn't be a public road. It would be just a driveway.
And then so if we would require that it be widened and people would agree to it, who would fund it? Would the applicant fund it?
Yeah, it would have to be paid for by the applicant. Before we would allow any development of those lots, they would have to provide the expansion of that driveway.
And then can you just describe in specific, you said he's got the right to build on this. We can't deny that. Is that the single lot or the lot as it's shown based on
Right now, he
acreage?
has the right to develop that single lot as shown. If he proposes a CSM, which meets all of our land division requirements, he would have the right to build it under those conditions as well. But that condition would require him to widen that road. So that's where the waiver is coming in.
So where does the neighbor agreement come into this? Because they
That's a
built
private issue. If they have a covenant that they think that would violate that agreement, they would have to handle that as a civil matter.
It's not our road. Well, it's not our driveway. Yeah. That's purely these are a mess. I see you.
You see me rolling my eyes?
Yep, I saw
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
I caught it. Yep. But there's a
doesn't-
lot of these in Mequon. I don't think that's depending on how this goes, that's for the applicant and the neighbors to figure out. I guess what staff needs is, well, this is pretty easy. There's A1 and A2, and then there's B. Well, A1 and 2 is A as it is with just give them waivers. A2 is keep it there, widen it, and B is put it in someone else's neighborhood. So let's make this easier and narrow down the options. Who likes option B?
Wait, is it a formal HOA? Because I'm not voting on anything until I know all the details, and I wasn't done asking questions, so I apologize. Is it a formal HOA?
I'm not sure it matters.
Homeowners Association, is it a formal homeowners association? Well, I'm asking the question. You said that you're a neighborhood and you have a covenant, so I'm trying to understand what that covenant means.
Not HOA.
I'm not mumbling, I'm talking really loud, I just don't have my face on the microphone. Okay, I'm trying to talk loud, I apologize to you. Okay, thank you. I'm trying to address your concerns and you're kind of yelling at me a little bit here, so let's shift that slightly. I'm trying to understand what the neighborhood covenant is and what it means. Because as what I would recommend, just so everybody in the room knows, including the applicant, is that there's some level of consensus with the covenant that property is within. I don't like making legislative decisions and then just throwing it to the wolves with the attorneys and letting the neighborhoods fight it out. That's not how I like to do business in this city. So I'm trying to come up with at least a condition where the applicant would need to get a certain amount of consensus from the neighbors. Maybe not everyone's going to agree, but a large majority or something. I'm trying to legislate on the fly or come up with recommendations on the fly here to try to address your issues as applicants applicant, and also neighbors, your concerns with the neighborhood. I understand everyone's concern, and I don't want to see your neighborhood disrupted because I know what those narrower roads and there's narrower driveways driving to your home and what kind of peace that means to you as you drive into your home and the sense that you're going somewhere special, and I don't want to make it look like a roadway, okay? So I'm trying to address your concerns and trying to understand it, and I do want to dig deeper, and so I apologize for kind of digging my heels in here. But we've got people with pretty significant homes and a lot of property value that have expressed a concern, an applicant that would like to divide a property and have some options. And if there's a way that we can find some sort of consensus and say maybe yes to all or really understand what the full scope of this is, then I can make my decision kind of moving forward. So
I'm still confused what you're looking for. I'm sorry.
I'm looking to try to understand what the covenant is and what that means.
Covenants for what? The 4 houses that are back there now?
Yeah, I mean.
There's no.
Oh, that's
I
for
think he's
Rangeline
asking a
Terrace.
completely different question. Yeah, you're talking about the 4 homes. Those 4 homes are not part of Rangeline Terrace.
Okay, so the 4 homes are independent. Rangeline Terrace has a covenant within the neighborhood. Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to get to the point where we could maybe eliminate an option and focus the conversation.
Yeah, based on that, yeah.
Okay.
I know where I'm going with this.
Commissioner.
Can't we
Schaefer.
eliminate option B if we don't know
I
whether
was
or not
hoping to get there.
whether or not there's actually, I mean, if it's owned by someone else and we don't have any proof, I don't think option B is. I think it's a non-starter for this discussion.
Who thinks option B has any way of remotely working at this point? Raise your hand.
Only if there's an offer to purchase that land that's been approved, which I don't think we're aware of.
I'd love to hear from Commissioner Denchis.
I'm not supporting it, but it's an issue of private right. If someone owns that lot and wants to grant an easement over that lot, that person may have the right to do that subject to the existing covenant of record that the owners of those lots within Rangeline Terrace have
I guess
in place, or which has been in place and guides their subdivision. So it's possible that option B could work, but it's going to require the owner of that lot to say yes, and whatever rights the other owners in that subdivision have, they may unfortunately go to the lawyers and have to fight it out. That's nothing we can control.
I guess based off what we know now, we don't even know if there's a truly willing buyer, or if it's even allowable. Period. So I guess it's also not particularly good looking in my estimation. So who would potentially support it? It looks like there's maybe one that thinks it might be legal, but he wouldn't necessarily support it. So I think we can stop talking about option B. Does anyone
I would
disagree?
just caution though that if it is legal and it does meet all requirements, it may not be something you might feel like you should support.
Well,
but
it's a consultation hearing. You're
Right.
just looking for how we feel.
I just want to make sure that we understand that they still may have the legal right to do that.
They may, but we don't have that in front of us.
Right.
Yeah.
So it can't be part of the discussion.
Well, ma'am, we heard from everyone. We know you're all opposed to it. That's not a question. I'm trying to eliminate it from discussion now, so I'm actually on your side. Believe it or not.
No.
Well, we listened to almost a dozen comments. Everyone supporting, or everyone not in favor of option B. So we heard you. It's not we didn't hear you. We're trying to figure out if we should even pursue it, discussion on it further. I'm thinking not, based off of where we're at right now. Although Commissioner Gentjes points out it may in fact be legal. We may have no power to stop it. We just don't know right now.
Right. That's the ultimate point. And if the surrounding neighbors don't agree, then that's the issue for the neighbors and for the applicant to resolve. As to option B, I'm not speaking to option A.
For,
right
for
now.
option B, if there's concerns from the HOA, then they'd have to address that with the HOA, but we're not at the HOA meeting tonight. We're at the...
Was that in the PUD? Is there a PUD
I don't think there's a PUD for this. It's just,
No, there's not a PUD. In fact, it's a part of it's part of a subdivision plat, but then there are also some CSMs involved in it, so it's a little confusing in terms of the background of the land. Because the entranceway lot is a CSM lot. It's not part of the subdivision, and then the rest of it is part of the subdivision, except one lot has a CSM number and
yeah,
is part of the subdivision.
there's an easement, there must be an easement over the land that has access to Rangeline Road.
Well, it's a public road. This parcel here is basically a CSM lot, which it's hard to see. It basically is an odd-shaped lot here. That one is a separate lot. I think my guess is that what was there originally, and then they worked around it. But this one's not part of the subdivision. While the one next to it is part of the subdivision. That explains that. I mean, it's a little bit confusing.
I'm
but
talking about the road to the north. We're talking about two separate spots.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one, there's an easement through that parcel. You're talking about this piece
Yep.
here. There's an easement through that parcel.
Yeah, in the future, I think it's helpful to have these kinds of maps in the packet materials. I always go back to the Ozaki GIS site because it's super useful, but well, sure. Only because you're the one who owned it, though. Because come up with public comment was previously this is abnormal to.
I own 2 lots in Rangeline Terrace, the one right off of kind of an L shape, and then the lot. I own 2 lots in Rangeline Terrace, the one that butts up to the one Ralph's interested in to the west, and the lot you're talking about. And I do want to sell them. And Ralph's talked to me about it. I have other people also talking to me about it. If you decide that Ralph cannot access his property from the private driveway, and he can only access it from my lot, I could sell it. I could tell Ralph, I could maybe not sell it to him if someone else gives a higher offer. I mean, you can't force me to sell it to one person.
We're not talking
and
about
if I say
forcing
no
you to sell
Ralph,
to anyone.
then he has property he can't build on. I don't understand how the city can do that. How they can be assessing him year after year after year for buildable lots, and then say the only way you could access that is through buy one lot.
I mean, I think we're talking about, we're not saying it's the only way.
We're not
talking about
we're
three
not saying he
different
can't
ways right
have
now.
access to it.
So
he's asking us
right.
for the best,
I get that,
what he
but
thinks is the
I
best way.
just want you to be aware that if you decide no on option A and say the only way you can do it is option B, that may not happen. And then Ralph has 4 lots that.
There are many options on the table. There is,
Anyway,
we're not prohibiting access. Yeah, sorry. Thank you for that. Any other questions? I think we've sort of eliminated option B for now, although there may be a legal right to do it. So we're up to option A and the question of widening the road or not. Commissioner Chorn. Sorry, driveway. It's a driveway, right? Not a road.
Well, now this would be a private road.
This would be a
considered
private road, which has, yeah.
So, as I understand it, there's 2 issues with that private road. Number 1, the number of parcels accessed from it, given its width, right?
Correct.
And in order to gain access to more parcels, they'd have to widen it.
Correct, yeah. It's our interpretation that what they have now is legal, it's existing. They have a vacant lot there, they're allowed to do that, but once you split it and create more lots, that triggers the road to be widened. And so that's what he's asking the waiver for as part of option 1A or 1B, whatever you want to call it.
So then would it be this individual's responsibility to cover the cost of widening that drive the entire length?
Well, you could potentially shorten it up when it drops down below the 4 level. So like you wouldn't have to it's hard to see on here, but you wouldn't have to take it all the way up to these last 2 lots, because the only access point back here is just 2 lots, so you could taper it down at one point where you get below the threshold, because they're not creating any new lots way back up in this area, they're creating lots up in the front. So my guess is kind of at this location here, which is kind of like a turn that could be almost like a cul-de-sac, you could probably taper it down at that point.
That makes the most sense.
And would that individual need to get the approval of all the people that this driveway serves?
And that's legal, that's a private issue, we would not be involved in
You
it.
gotta get closer to the mic, sorry.
But would the individual then need to get approval of all the parcels that this driveway then serves?
That's a private issue again, we don't typically get involved in that. From what I've seen in the past, it depends on the easements written and what rights it grants to each individual owner and what accounts for future subdivisions of it. We've seen, Caredell Lane has probably 20-30 houses on it on a private road that they were allowed to split in the back, and our attorney at the time said that we couldn't stop it. And that was only, at the time, that was before we had these requirements, because that road is only like 12 feet wide, it's gravel, so it's not the best situation, so.
Commissioner Urbani.
There is a possibility that you're increasing your own flooding issue on that road. When you said yourselves you have to often drive off the road to pass each other, and you are thereby possibly compacting the soil even more, which is worsening the flooding. So in the end, widening that road may actually be more beneficial to you and reduce the flooding in the area. That's
Well, I think also if more lots are ultimately developed, they're gonna come with some stormwater mitigation features for them, whereas some of the homes, I'm guessing, probably were built before that was required. We've got new ordinances, since many homes in Mequon were built that now require stormwater mitigation features, whereas, none were required up until, the 90s?
Yeah, well, we had some previous ones before MMSD made us do it. We had our own specific ones prior to that, but they weren't as tight as they are now. And I just would also mention that the biggest issue of the widening is probably gonna be the impact to this front property along Rangeline, because that's on a separate parcel. They have their own separate access point, but whatever is done there is gonna impact the people that live on that property.
And are they here?
I don't know, 100060, was Flessis. I don't know if they showed up or not.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
The applicant, I guess, would like to ask a question. Speak into the mic, please. Yep, could you speak into the mic, or is it, you have to push to talk, sorry.
Oh, and I think I know the history better than anyone. I tried to take a count. I think I'm in the minority approving the 2 lots. However, one thing you asked about was the easements. There was an easement filed in 1992 allowing, and it's filed, 7 lots on that private roadway. So from that standpoint, I think later address that. There is already an easement in place allowing 7 driveways. 30-some years ago, the Plan Commission approved 6 lots on that private driveway. The reason there are 5 today is I purchased one of those lots, attached it to my existing property. So, to say that, and I'm not trying to cause any problems here, but the Plan Commission in the past had
Sir, could you speak closer? I'm sorry, people in back can't hear you.
The Plan Commission had approved in the past 6 lots on that driveway, and easements were filed for 7 lots. So I would be willing to answer any other questions from my history out here, but, and this is really staff and your decision, but a couple of things that you had asked, so I thought I would just try to clarify that.
Thank you. I think we should maybe do a little more homework as this progresses too I don't know how good our records are going back that far.
Yeah, I'd have to look.
That's
There is a, you can't really see it on the screen very well, but there is a green dashed line, which means a previous land, or parcel line that was combined, so that may be possible. And I would say prior to, 2008, 2007 timeframe, this would have been totally legal without any requirements for the road width. So it was something, this is all being,
Correct.
required because of our new language.
Yeah, and I know we've granted a few waivers, but never for this many houses. It's been usually where one lot splits into two, and you're never going to have more traffic than the guy that lives right next door to you, not 6 other houses. So what's the consensus? This is just an advisory hearing. It sounds like there's some momentum behind some amount of road widening up to a point, but who else has questions? Commissioner Gensches.
Question for the applicant, Mr. Morello. You said there are easements already that allow access and for the development of up to 7 homes?
Yes, it was filed, I have all these papers. I could show you what the Plan Commission's approved from 1992.
My recommendation in that case would be to make sure that information is provided to
Okay,
Yes.
but yes, the,
staff, so they have the opportunity to work with you and determine whether or not plan option A or option A1 is the better alternative than option B.
those easements were filed up at the Register of Deeds also,
Right.
so it would not be hard to come up with. I do have copies.
But it would be up to the applicant, I think, to provide that information to staff and work with staff. If you're going to propose ultimately to us, as the Plan Commission, a certified survey map that shows access, if it needs some additional tweaking, where we can actually weigh in, that's the point where we would weigh in. But I think your point now would be, or your mission now would be to get that information to staff and have that discussion.
I will, you mean the easement issues or?
Any document pertaining to the property. It's
even-
much easier to just give
Okay.
it to staff than
Even
that
the
for them
Plan
to play
Commission
document.
approval back
Yeah.
in, years back for the 6 lots on the driveway, et cetera, et cetera. Staff, I will get all that to staff. That's not a problem. We keep the records and, can I state one thing? I'm 85 years old. This is for estate planning purposes. I have to get my estate in order. My wife and I plan on living the next 10 days or whatever we have on this property. We're not going to develop these lots. We just want to put it in a position where either a buyer or my heirs know what can and cannot be done. And that's what we're really asking. And if I had some idea, and I'll get that to staff, and they'll deal with you, and then we'll come in with a CSM, or we'll just have on record what we believe will be available to either someone else or, and in fact, all my neighbors and everybody else will have the same option I had. I bought these lots from the developer. So, if we put these lots in and they don't want anybody in there, buy the lots. I mean, that's pretty simple.
That is your right as the landowner.
Excuse me?
That is your right as the landowner. Commissioner Barnes.
Just a comment, and I'm not coming with a conclusion, firm opinion on this, but the discussion of the width of the roadway. And this, I drove the road that says private road, do not enter, but I went up the road and looked at it. And frankly, so I understand the concerns of conflicting traffic within the existing width and adding another parcel. On the other hand, I also heard that this was a judgment on establishing a limit through the city. I guess what I'm trying to say is we're right in a very much of a judgment level as to how firmly the widening of the street at all would be necessary, in my opinion, in this site for what's been discussed in front of us.
Commissioner Strelchak.
Okay, this is my last time talking, hopefully. My position based on the new news is that if those were 2 lots previously and there are legal easements in place allowing for this, to me that's a grandfathered item and would be allowable. And it would be something that was on record at the county. We're not coming up with something new. We aren't creating, you know, a new development position here. If he combined the properties and then wants to redivide them out into 2, I don't know that I wouldn't support that moving forward. As for widening the road, I guess I would ask for just a pulse from the neighbors. They're not going to be happy, you know, based on their early thoughts that, you know, this was intended only for 4 homes. Just get a pulse on whether they feel that entryway needs to be a little wider so less people are, you know, pulling in or you know, pulling in and backing up, you know, or driving on lawns to get from point A to point B as a condition for, you know, allowing that lot division. So, you know, that's kind of where my position would sit on this, and those would be my go, no go statements.
Thank you. Can I add one thing?
Yes.
Lot 2 of the original 4 also bought Lot 5 when there were 6 lots. Attached it to his parcel, just like you're saying, and then he split it back off and sold the 2 parcels. So what I was saying that there were 6 lots, the reason, I mean, he did exactly
I guess
what you're saying.
to me, it almost doesn't matter what was what and what got combined and what got split back apart and recombined. We're faced with 7 driveways off of a very narrow driveway.
Yeah, I think that what the commissioner's got to, we have to make a decision on is if we're not willing to look at a waiver to the road width, then you run the risk of potentially having that option B come back at one point. That's really the question. If you're, and I would give that feedback now, saying we're not willing to look at wide or narrow or.
Well, we're not saying what it has to be and what it doesn't have to be. We're giving it a direction what we'd like it to be. I mean, this isn't final action. That's where
Well,
we're
I
kind
agree.
of. That's
I
why I'm
agree.
very.
But I think if there's a consensus among the commissioners that they're not going to support a waiver to the road width, I think that was something we should know now, and then the applicant should know now as well, because that'll make the decision easier. It'd basically be like either he's going to have to widen that road or he's going to have to explore the option of B.
That would be based on the easement that's in place and filed
Well,
with the county.
But we don't have any of that in front of us.
That's
so
not. Yeah, the easement issues, again, that's a private issue. This is whether we're, as
We
a
should
commissioner,
table it
willing
then.
to waive the width requirement. If we're not, I think we should come out and just let him know that at this point.
well, we're making decisions about what things we don't have. We don't have documents in our possession that say anything. So I mean, I trust you, but I'm taking your word for it, because we don't have the documents in the packet.
I'm just saying that I'd want to see those if something came before me to actually vote on. This is a consultation, that's my point.
But we should have all the same documents in front of us.
Agreed.
Yeah, that's where I'm a little frustrated. We don't have all the info to make a true
Well, again, I think
indication of direction.
the easement to me is somewhat irrelevant to the issue of whether we want to grant a waiver to the width or
I
not.
guess.
'Cause
I guess my inclination is to not, but I would accept widening it only to a point such that if there's 4 homes in the back, why widen it all the way back? Minimize the amount of asphalt, but
that's the feedback.
that's just the way I feel.
Yeah, I think that's what the
Others might
commission-
feel differently. Commissioner Schaefer.
I would say the same with the, I guess, caveat or open question of the property to the.
What's not?
Range. I would agree with what the mayor said. I have an open question regarding the property to the north of the existing shared private driveway. If it's going to impact their property and they're not even here, like, I don't know how that works.
Well, you're talking about the one in the front here, what I'm pointing to?
Yeah, that guy.
There's an easement there, so again, if that easement allows the owner of that easement to widen it, they have the right to do that. It may impact them, you know, they might not like it, but there's an easement that allows them to do it. Now, if they'd have to go outside the easement, they'd have to renegotiate that easement, but I think they can work within that easement. But it still will have an impact on them one way or another, regardless of whether they have an easement or not.
I would like to move that we have no more shared private driveways ever allowed in Mequon.
That's pretty common in most communities. We're a little bit unique and rare here. We allow them. A lot of places don't allow them.
It's messy. I agree with what the mayor said as far as what my inclination would be at this point.
Sir, could
Any,
I ask one other thing so I know how to proceed here? The first 400 feet are on two lots where there's an easement. I could widen that first 400 feet and then put a driveway on the two lots separate from the driveway that's there. And so there would be no burden from 400 feet back for the 2,000-foot driveway. I mean, we can easily do that. I mean, I'm just looking for things and ways that I should approach this to planning and to you.
well, now we're designing it on the fly. I think we've given staff direction to, that we want to do, what we want to do is make sure that we don't just keep on adding more and more houses to this existing rather narrow driveway, but at some point it's going to fall back into compliance. So if you only have to build it 400 feet and there's a novel solution that solves the rest of it, I think we're open to it, but we don't have it drawn in front of us. We can't say, yes, that's the solution, because it's not in front of us for consideration.
So you suggest I get all these papers to them and work with them and then come back again?
Does staff have sufficient direction from the commission?
Yes, I think you want to require the widening to up to a point where it would be required to handle the load of the additional lots. But beyond that, you would not require it to be
Correct,
wide.
just to minimize, I mean, I think everyone here wants to minimize the amount of asphalt that's
Yeah,
put down.
Yeah, I think we got that.
Yeah. Okay. Commissioner Stoker.
I would certainly be more in favor of that and granting a waiver to allow that than option B, as it stands right now.
Okay.
Could be.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
He was agreeing with, he basically said that you would prefer widening it to a point where it's, at that point it becomes in compliance the rest of the way back, as opposed to going for option B. Okay, well, we've got nothing to vote on, it's just a consultation if staff's got what they need. I think we can move on to the next item, unless someone has some parting words. All right, thank you. We'll move on to our last item. It's NOR for Brixmore, SPE 1 LLC, Brixmore. The applicant is seeking a building and site plan amendment approval to allow for exterior improvements for the property located at 10930 North Port Washington Road for the Sendix Food Market.
Yes, there's really two issues that I think the commission needs to provide us with some direction on, and I can show you, I want to zoom in on this map a little bit. I kind of created a little phasing map just to kind of show you the history of what was done in the shopping center. So, as you see on the screen, the middle section of the development, that was given a facade enhancement roughly about 4 years ago, and then the DSW, former DSW Bed Bath and Beyond section was done within the last year or so, so this is currently ongoing. So, and this proposal is for the Sendix portion of the shopping center. I guess staff is a little bit concerned that we're not including this tiny little section of it as part of this improvement. There is no plan in place for when this would get done. And so we are requesting, as part of this approval, one item would be to include this little section as part of the Sendix renovations. The other item that I think we need to get some feedback on is the proposal for the materials. As I show you the plan here, most of this does match the rest of the facade improvements of the site. There's a couple differences. The one is the use of this aluminum plank material, which is behind the Sendix facade. That, from my knowledge, is not used anywhere else in the development, and so that's somewhat unique. So staff does not support the use of the plank in this area here. We are okay with it underneath the overhang of the windows. We feel like that's not as visible as to the rest of the development, so we would recommend that this Sendix facade be treated to match the rest of the facade in the development, which is basically a painted EFIS material. They do include the awnings. You can see the awnings on each side that match the rest of the site. They also painted the existing roof structure, which we've had issues with in the past of maintenance that we have orders on, so that'll be a continuing concern of ours, but we understand they're just trying to match what's out there. So So we are supportive of the project of the report, and the conditions of the report just reflect the two changes. That includes going all the way to the end and removing that aluminum planking in the Sendix facade. So, other than that, I'll turn it back to the mayor. Thank you.
All right, any questions from the commission? Commissioner Jorn?
Jack, what is the material that is on the what you'd prefer behind the Sendix? I mean, I think that's just, it's a plaster, it's a...
The EFIS, yeah, type of material.
Okay, just similar to what was proposed for the...
Sierra and all the other,
Okay.
all the facades throughout the development.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Barnes?
Can you explain just a little bit further why you would oppose a distinct facade, recognizing the unity of the
Well, it's kind of the
whole
same
grounds
thing we
and
talked
everything,
about
but-
with Sierra last time, was that we want to recognize some individuality of the tenants, but we don't want them to overwhelm the rest of this. It is part of a shopping center, so we want the shopping center to be consistent and uniform. So we just think that this section is just too large of an area to have that distinct look to it. Now, if that was incorporated in other areas of the plan of the design, I think it would be okay, but this is the only section it is, and it's a very large and distinct feature, so that's why we object to the material at that location.
It's, yeah, not often we argue against a somewhat nicer material like that in favor of EFIS.
Correct, yes.
That's a very odd thing for
So
staff to do,
essentially
but
it's
that's the
because
reason behind it.
It's a large area.
Large area in a
Is that-
shopping center that does not have any consistent element with it.
Commissioner Stoker?
Would you object to the EFIS being painted the color of the material that's proposed?
See, I'm not sure. I don't know if that's a Sendix color. I don't know if that is because of Sendix that the color. I just think if it was between painting it and having the material up, then I'd probably go with the material because I think it would be a little nicer material. But I think it's just the coloration is different. It just doesn't match the rest of the facade.
Yeah, certainly it stands out. It's very bold, and I'm sure that's why the applicant likes it. So, I mean,
Commissioner
are we,
Gentges.
are we
Oops,
literally
sorry.
determining what color they can paint that EFIS, or are
It
you
would be
saying the
matching
EFIS
the
has
rest
to
of the
match the
facade,
rest
which
of
is
the...
kind of like a grayish material.
Commissioner Gentges?
With the caveat that I always have to repeat, I am not an architect, so I'm not trained at all in this area. Would staff have any objection to a reduced size using the same material to permit the...
It's possible, but it's a really difficult facade to work with because all you could do is there's an angle here and there's an angle on the other side, and you could maybe reduce it to that angle, but I don't know how that corner would end up looking anyway. It might even look a little worse.
Commissioner Strelchek?
I'm supportive of staff's position on this. I'm also supportive of continuing through the rest of the building and then just finishing that section of the building off. I don't know that that's too much more real estate that we'd like to see some improvement on. And it's, you know, it's logically tied in with the phase here when that was built back when I was a kid. That was all done together, and any improvements have all been done together. So the fact that we've allowed for phasing at certain points and things, just that phasing request from staff to me is very appropriate in this case.
I will preface this too with I am not an architect, but is it, I don't even know if it's possible or even desirable just to have that material in the middle, just around where the lettering is, and not dominate the whole span? Go ahead, yeah. Let's hear from you, because this is a little bit of a dialogue, so.
Yeah, there's a couple of reasons. Is this on? Can you hear me?
Is it green?
It is on.
Okay, if it's green, yeah, then you have to get really close to it.
Okay, so there are a couple of reasons that we're proposing this. First, Sendix is the anchor tenant of the shopping center. They're 57,000 square feet. They're the whole reason for the shopping center. So we support their desire to be a little special, a little different from the rest. It's complementary to the rest of the center, but a little different because they are the anchor of the shopping center. This new material, this is a new material. It's a modern material. It's longboard. It's a extruded aluminum siding kind of material. It is much nicer than the EFIS that exists today. we'd hate to just paint the ephes to match what really is. It is a very, the center, I don't know how to say it, but the center all looks the same, right? It's got 3 or 4 colors. It all looks the same. We think that this is a nice accent point for the center. The same material is used right across the street at the Arby's, right down the street at the Starbucks. It's new to this center, but it's not new to this community or this neighborhood that the shopping center is a part of. And in fact, the Sierra was just approved with some of the same material as an accent piece, so it will exist at the shopping center.
Any other comments or questions from the commission? Commissioner Hawley.
I actually really like the material. I'm definitely in the minority. I think Sendix kind of deserves it. I think you're right. I think they're the anchor. If it is a light gray, like you can see how it just blends in right now.
I'm sorry,
It's
I'm sorry.
very difficult.
I put the phasing line picture up. I just wanted you
okay.
to see that because it's so hard to zoom into that.
Okay.
So if you guys I'll just so you understand that looks like. I'll go
Okay.
I'll go away from that now.
But I do think, the word Sendix really pops out when that background is dark. I was going to suggest the same thing to shorten up, like maybe the dark material behind the word and shorten it up. I don't know if that's possible or not, but I really like how it looks.
Commissioner Strelchak.
I changed my mind. The anchor tenant argument won me over. I mean, Sendix has been a staple of our community for years, and the value of having them there and having them happy within this establishment really is the reason that people do come, to that shopping mall. As you guys were doing some redevelopment and had some tenant turnover, Sendix was the one staple, and that's what continued to bring in high quality, high end business, and having a high end grocer in that space is fine. I'm okay, Jack, with them looking a little different based on the anchor tenant premise here, and I don't know that this look isn't totally complementary. It is unique, it does stand out, but I don't think it stands out like in a bad way or as a sore thumb, and it is an improvement on the
No, it's definitely not orange.
material. What's that?
It's definitely not orange.
No, it's not orange, thank goodness. It's a natural color, so we'll cheer that along, right? And you'll agree to do the rest of the building like staff said if we say yes to this tonight?
Yes.
Okay, so I'd make a motion that we approve per the design shown here.
But just approve with staff recommendation 1 removed.
Yeah, I just didn't know which number that was because I was looking at the picture. That's my motion.
Who's next? Commissioner Chorin.
I was trained as an architect, and for a while I have to confess, it looks really nice. I guess it begs the question, perhaps, that if you make something special for Sendix, do you kind of open a door for, the other large tenants there, the Marshalls and
Well,
others?
even Sierra for that matter. And I agree. I think it looks good too on its own. But again, we had to look at the larger context, and we didn't want to be in a position where Sierra then comes back and says, "Hey, you just approved Sendix's change. Now we want to see orange back up there." So.
I mean, that would be my concern. And when you showed that picture of the existing Sendix, it just kind of washes completely out. They're relying simply on the letters to illustrate the name of the tenant. So I guess I like what I see here. So I guess I'm agreeing with.
Is that a second?
That's a second.
All right. Commissioner Stoker.
I was going to echo Alderman Strelchak's sentiments, but be a little bit more emphatic. I think we're bettering the look of the property in entirety. And if another tenant wants to come back and present something that makes it look better, so long as we don't have a code against this change, I would be supportive of that as well. So I 100% second this as well.
There's a third. Commissioner Schaefer.
Not a third. I like it too. I also am mindful of anyone coming forward and arguing that they're the anchor tenant in their respective development or whatever mini mall they're in, and asking for something. So we are opening a door. We can go in eyes wide open and choose to do that, but it's not.
Wouldn't be the first time we've opened Pandora's box. Nor will it be the last.
But
Commissioner Barnes, yeah.
Sorry, but just to help us, I fully support the plan that's presented to us. That I think the strong points is just as it said, as we've been talking, anchor tenant, and then I think there's also the architecture of the building itself where it protrudes out that adds to the distinction in terms of the rest of the color having uniformity in shape and size, etc.
So that's important. It's not just
so
another
I think that
relatively
is an
flat
aspect,
facade like the other areas.
It's an aspect of the distinction of the facading that captured me when first seeing it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further comments? Otherwise, we can always vote on it too. If there's no other comments, I don't want to cut anyone off. Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Aye.
Commissioner Gentes, Commissioner Schaefer, Commissioner Stoker, Commissioner Barnes,
Aye.
Commissioner Chorin,
Aye.
Alderman Stralchuk,
Aye.
Mayor Nurbin.
I'll abstain.
Votes passes 7-1.
Well, I'll neither confirm nor deny. Announcements, next meeting is Monday, June 24th. Same bat time, same bat channel. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're adjourned.